Hi everyone, welcome. Out here on the bench, all set to go, are the European night crawlers that have been living in these bins now for 130 days. And over that time, we've fed these little guys 11 times. The last of those feedings came 12 days ago, at which point we started down a new fabric composting experiment. And a little different from all the other ones I've done in the past, where I've done t-shirts and socks and towels and maybe other things too, I don't recall. All those were cotton. But in this last test, 12 days ago, we dropped in a sweater. I had a sweater which I was able to cut in half with the scissors and position each half down into the worm bins to see how the worms like cotton. Because, not cotton, wool, because I have experience breaking down cotton in my worm bins, and for some reason, just the number 100 sort of sticks in my mind. Because even though I think in my spreadsheet, I don't know why I remember this in such detail, but I guess because I'm not 100% sure about the official 125 days that we counted. In my mind, I think that after 100 days, we were already more or less done with the composting of whatever it was that we were trying to break down last time. But I've been a little bit suspicious. Last time, too, it seemed like I had a hard time getting this thing to cover the whole system, trying to like pull it this way and then finding that this edge is uncovered, and I had this recollection once of comparing these pink bags, and look at that, I've got this edge lined up perfectly, and over on this side I've got almost an inch, or about an inch extra width. So I think at the end we're covering up with this other bag that, even just as far as its color goes, it resembles this other one a lot better. So we're going to upgrade a little bit to make sure we've got full coverage on both bins, equal coverage. So, let's see, do we have any wormies to worry about in this case? If we do, we'll just evict them now, and then we don't have to sweat this piece of plastic. Yeah, I guess sweat is the thing that the worms are really attracted to. I mean, condensation, right? Some people will consider the appearance of condensation as sweat. Like if an object looks like it's developing a sheen due to moisture. Sweating is the closest approximation that we can come up with to, what's that word? There's a word where you apply human traits to something just because we're human. Anthropomorphize? Oh, I don't know. Look at that. All these little springtails. Hanging out, helping out with the mission. I got a comment, one of the viewers, after we placed this cotton, I keep thinking cotton, sorry, this wool sweater into the system. Somebody suggested that maybe we could throw a little twist on the experiment, and I think I've done something similar in the past, which was to just not mess with the fabric, or at least in one case, not mess with the fabric. So I guess if we were to put a little twist on our experiment, now would be the time to do it in the very beginning and then keep to it. So I guess the theory was that, it would be interesting to see what the progress of the fabric would be if it were undisturbed. I guess with that viewer knowing that my style is generally to do quite the opposite, which is to come in with a great deal of disturbance in most cases. So we're already bumping into the fabric, the wool sweater right here, and I guess to get the worm traffic going on the thing, we placed their feeding right on top of the fabric. And as you can see, it's doing its job. It would seem that after 12 days, maybe we have not yet seen them deplete their entire food supply. I guess we're not disturbing the fabric yet, right? If we examine this assembly of wormies right on top of the fabric. Well, it does seem like, no, this yellow, I thought it was lemon. This does look like food, though. This looks like a piece of carrot. I do remember now, carrot was part of the feeding. I breezed through the video from last time just to I don't know, get a sense of what that last check-in was like, and man, I guess this is the one thing that to me seems like it might be a little bit working against us, is how this thing is just all folded over on top of each other. It almost seems like it should be laid out as best as possible. Whatever. There's so many things you could probably do to optimize the process and help the breakdown occur quicker, but you gotta remember that this is just for fun. We're not in a race, we're not in a hurry. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree? I didn't really disturb that fabric there too much. I guess we could sort of take that approach. The only thing about that sort of turns me off, not turns me off, but I guess, not even concerns me, but I guess it's just that in a previous composting experiment, I had taken that same approach of keeping my hands off, at least one of them, I believe. And we would do the same thing, as we would excavate to the point where we definitely saw the color of the fabric and the texture of the fabric, and we said, okay, don't dig any further. And we were under the impression that that fabric was just still sitting there for the most part, and then from one check-in to the next, from what appeared to be the completely intact fabric, which in the end I don't think was. In the end I think it was getting broken down considerably just out of view under the surface. And since we were not disturbing it, we didn't really get to see that, you know. And then suddenly whatever it is that we were still observing up until the last second suddenly vanished. It made it seem like the entire thing had just been consumed 1, 2, 3 in an instant and vanished in an instant. But that's kind of the reason I thought it makes more sense to periodically check both, and maybe, I don't know, the thing to look for is consistency or equal progress. I don't know, whatever. I think for now, since there's not a lot to be seen, I believe, on these yet, doesn't make sense to spend too much time. But just figured I'd bounce some of that thinking off you guys, the viewers, and I also wanted to take care of that discrepancy in the size of the plastic coverings. But I think we're in a position now to proceed with giving them their meal. You know, when I picked these systems up and bought them over from the shelf, they had a great deal of weight, you know, and that, you know, could just be from maybe me jamming way too much material into these systems too quickly. And I think the biggest telltale of that is usually that I find myself running out of space when I try to excavate and really move material around, and suddenly I find myself coming up to the point where I'm almost spilling over the edge. And I don't think we're quite there in these systems yet, although I think there was a pair of systems where I was getting that sense that perhaps we'd gone a little bit overboard on applying material into the system, sort of forcing me to the point where I've got insufficient space to do my thing. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. I refilled this yesterday, so I forgot that I was pretty full when it comes to this pulverized eggshell in this container. Last time I used it yesterday, it was almost empty, so I guess muscle memory went to pour it, not realizing that I just topped it off yesterday. So let's take what's left in this, a little tiny bit of coffee remaining, give them that as well, and then I know I've got a couple days of coffee up in the kitchen waiting to get put into a better storage solution, so I'll take this upstairs and take care of that. And you know, I almost forgot. I'm on a little bit of a mission, and I figured since I mentioned my collection of napkins so frequently, I would just bring them over here, and you'll have to agree, it's coming down to a pretty manageable amount here, right? And I was even reminded that, you know, once I finally get done with the napkins, I've still got a whole bunch of plates down here too that I gotta compost. Totally forgot about the plates. Alright, this check-in's getting a little bit silly here. Let's get this thing done. The moisture in here feels pretty good, but these last two things we placed in here, that dry napkin, the more or less dry coffee, just gives me that feeling like it might be wise to compensate for that dryness rather than letting that dryness possibly start absorbing some of the system's moisture into itself. So kind of like the idea of grabbing my squirt bottle, since it's right there anyway, and getting things moistened. So I do remember in one of my systems, maybe even in a couple of my systems now, we made the conscious decision not to probe out into the edges and instead just leave them. And I can't remember now if this was the system where we did it or another one, but I guess maybe even the topic of creature of habit came up when we made the decision, let's just leave the outer edges undisturbed for a while. So whether or not these were the systems in which we made that decision, we'll just carry through with that thinking and maybe start letting that approach spread a little bit instead of always feeling the need to excavate the outer edges in order to get the feeding zone covered up. Just, you know, not allow ourselves to indulge satisfying our curiosity of what's going on down there and sort of take a little bit of a leap of faith and assume that everything's a-okay and leave it be. See if leaving it be helps a little bit. So I think we already confirmed that the plastic that was covering bin number 2 over here is free of any wormies, but I will take a second look at that. We don't have to take time here on the video to do that. I'll just make sure we don't leave anyone behind on that plastic. And now coming back in with this somewhat darker color, I believe, than the one that was narrower. There was something about the color too that made it stand out. So I think the ones that are a little bit more translucent, transparent, are the ones that are also narrower. So I think right now, in the dead of winter with the furnace running all the time and the air in the house being as dry as it is, maximizing protection against drying is the way to go. So that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. If you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.